and welcome to Thinking is Free, proudly brought to you by Chinmaya Mission New Zealand.
Hari Om everyone, my name is Zakash and today we have Ishanji and Hashil.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
So today's podcast is going to be quite interesting, I think. Personally, I've always seen or living in the world, and you always like going to school, you're studying sciences, and this is what the world is like and the way the world is built up, and these are the laws, and then going to mission and classes and this is the universe, or this is, how life is and how life is built up. So yeah, I think today's episode's gonna be a good one. I think we should maybe introduce Hashil and who he is, what he does, and he's a very, very smart person. So maybe if you want to take it away.
Thank you. I'm Harshil. I did an undergrad in engineering, physics and math, and I'm now doing a PhD in bioengineering.
Very smart.
With an interest in Vedanta.
So do you want to maybe just intro us into the area of conversation and what we want to discuss? And I know Ishanji's really locked and loaded to bring his wealth of knowledge. But for me, the way I to paint the picture, you guys have seen Big Bang, right? Big Bang Theory?
Yes.
So,
no one was here to see the Big Bang. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I had to get some clarification on that too.
So we're talking about the sitcom.
That's right.
Big Bang Theory.
Okay.
Yes, we've seen it.
So if we're thinking in the context of Big Bang Theory, I'm pretty much Penny. That is my limited knowledge with what we're discussing today. But I'm definitely going to try my best. And I feel like we've got a Leonard and Sheldon situation here where, you guys can pretty much explain to us, or even, as we try and bridge science and spirituality.
We can try.
Yeah, we can try.
Hashil, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, sure. So in Vedanta, there's this interesting concept that the universe isn't real, and what we see is an apparent reality, and that's based on every person's individual perspective. And I'll let Ishanji elaborate on what that could be. But and in quantum mechanics, recently there was a Nobel Prize that was awarded out to 3 people, and essentially that was awarded for the proving that the universe is not locally real. And I'll expand a bit on what that means. So by local, so it can't be both local and real. So local being that nothing, in this sense, nothing travels faster than the speed of light, and real meaning that there's the state of something is not predetermined, and it's determined at the point of observation, is how it would be in quantum mechanics.
Yep.
Yeah. And so that's just a overview of what the result was, and it leads quite nicely into this Vedantic perspective of is the universe even real, and or what was classically pictured is that everything was predetermined and we knew everything, whether we were there or not. Whereas now we're questioning that. Yeah.
So what we're questioning is, if we weren't here, would all this still exist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Because the way I kind of think about it from my very limited knowledge is that when I look at this, whatever's set up here, everything's just vibrating energy. For it to,
But it's there.
It's there, but only because I know that it's here.
Okay.
Because Yeah, for me, I believe I am.
So if you leave this room, would it still be here?
Because I know and I've experienced that it's here.
So it's there.
It's there.
Yeah. Okay.
Are we almost equivalent? How do you say are we almost saying, or like, yeah, that it's almost equivalent to if a tree falls down in the forest?
Yeah.
It's pretty much
So-
getting there.
So that is
Right.
realness, right? So
Okay.
realness is quite well described by is if a tree falls down in a forest and no one's there to hear it, doesn't make
Like
a
a
sound.
sound. Okay,
right?
cool.
And I suppose that's what we're questioning now. So they're saying that from this experiment that I can expand a bit on what that experiment was.
Yeah. Sure.
So the experiment basically says that there's two particles that are what's called entangled,
Mm-hmm.
and when you know the state of one, automatically you know the state of the other.
Yeah.
And what that seems to indicate is that either you have something traveling faster than the speed of light,
Mhm.
so that when you know one, something's telling the other one to become something,
Yep.
which we haven't seen before, something traveling faster than the speed of light. Or the other thing is that they're both undetermined. And so, like, it's not the case of, if we're thinking of up and down or spin left or right or something like that,
Yeah.
it's not that this one, the left one always knew it was going to be up and the right one always knew it was going to be down. It was that they were both undetermined. And at the point of measuring, the left one decided to be up and then the right one decided to be down. And that seems to...
But somehow that information's communicated between the two.
Yeah, somehow something on the far reaches of the universe is affecting something else on the other side of the universe.
Yes.
And that seems to be in quite contradiction to the way we used to classically think of the universe.
Yeah. It's kind of inexplicable.
Yeah, and
Okay.
that realness is like it's not predetermined. That
Yep.
the left one didn't know it was going to be up from the start.
Yep.
Right. It's that. Does the tree make a sound? It's that realness. Was it always there? Was it predetermined that it was going to do that?
Yep.
Mm.
Yes, it's fascinating because even in Vedanta and to explain certain things, we adopt in the beginning this idea that there is a world and it exists. And because it exists, we observe it. And this is called Srishti, Drishti, Vada. Srishti means there's a creation. Drishti means I observe it.
Mm.
Because there's a creation, I observe it. But as we advance into Vedanta, the idea of creation changes, and the more accurate understanding of this creation, and it's not given in the beginning because the student is unable to grasp it. But in the later stages of Vedanta, the vision or the understanding of the world is Drishti Srishti Vada. It exists because I see it. If I do not see it, it does not exist. In effect, what it is saying is the world exists dependently. The observer, I, is independent. And I influence what is being observed. And this is exactly where I think physics is also arriving at, where it is saying the observation is dependent upon the observer, or is, before that we don't know what its state is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's right.
And in a sense, we're coming to this idea that, okay, if we cannot determine what it is it really there?
Mm.
Right? Just like a dream exists while we see it. Because we see it. Really, it's not there. Just because we see it does not mean there is something. And so the world also is it's a cosmic dream. It's not an individual's dream, but it's a cosmic dream. And it exists because there is a consciousness which forms the substratum of this macro dream. But really, in essence, it's not there. It is only an appearance. Which is fascinating in the sense it completely changes the way we look at the world and how much importance we give to it. Our focus is always on the world and we give reality to it and we are caught up in it. Whereas Vedanta wants to pull out that reality and say, no, what is really of primary importance is the observer, the subject, the consciousness. Everything else is just an appearance and it doesn't really matter. And that consciousness or the observer, the subject, is real. Everything else is only relatively real or an appearance or conditioned by the observer. Because without the observer, there's no way of saying whether it exists or it doesn't exist or what state it exists in. It's really indeterminate.
Can you just elaborate a bit more on the macro dream? You're talking about like the cosmic dream.
Yes, so the cosmic dream or the macro dream is basically saying this universe is a construct of all of the total mind, which includes all the individual's mind.
Right.
And because this table, which exists or which appears to exist,
Yeah.
it really questions the fundamental assumptions that we have made that there exists a table. Really, does there exist a table? There's an appearance of this table because you, me, and Harshil have a use for it.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment we stop observing this table, whether it's there or it's not there, we cannot say.
Without us being
Here
to experience.
Yes.
Because for all we know is the moment we leave this, someone could come and take away the table.
No, whether it's there or not there, we don't know. Just like when I
Just because
close
we're
my
not here.
eyes and I start dreaming, the dream world's there.
Yeah.
The moment I stop dreaming,
Disappears.
there is no dream. The fact is there is no dream world.
Right.
Just
So-
because it appears does not mean it is real. And we are applying that same concept to waking as well.
Oh my gosh.
And we are saying just because it appears, you cannot give it reality.
So we're saying that everything outside of what I'm experiencing right now isn't real.
Including what is being experienced right now is not real. It's not that
Well,
it was unreal, it is real, and then later becomes
Okay.
unreal. Right? While we are experiencing it, it is an appearance. We are not denying the
right. The appearance is there.
of it.
Okay.
But
seems
appearance
real.
does not equal reality.
So what is reality?
Right? And this is the wonderful thing. Vedanta defines reality as that which is independent, that which does not change, that which does not get negated.
Independent, doesn't change, not negated.
Yes, this is reality. That which is ever there, unchanging and unnegated. Anything other than this is an appearance, it's not real. And we are okay with accepting that the world is unreal. Whereas coming from a scientific perspective, yeah, we may conceptually or theoretically come to this conclusion, but it's so hard for us to apply it. Whereas the application of this idea in Vedanta is experiences that we have are conditioned by the observer, the mind, and therefore take it with a pinch of salt and recognize that there is an influencing factor. It is not an absolute fact. But we treat it as absolute facts and
Yeah. That's what I was going to say.
create
because it
responses
was-
accordingly to it.
Yeah. Because going back to just that like a minute ago, me thinking that this whole thing only existed because that's what we're saying, right? Is taking this whole experience just as a pinch of salt, right? Wow. Oh my God.
And yes, so in a particular situation, a different individuals can observe the same thing play out and interpret it differently. If what was happening was a fact, it should be uniform throughout.
So we're saying, from this experience, if it was a fact, all three of us should experience the same amount of happiness, joy, whatever their reaction from this.
Whatever is absolute should be the same for all three.
Mm-hmm. Well, we hope we feel happiness out of this.
But we don't.
Yeah.
And therefore, the whole experience is really inconclusive because three people have interpreted it in three different ways. Which one is real?
Wow.
So the applications are huge of it.
Yeah.
We should say the implications of claiming that the world is not real is huge. Because if it is not real, then why am I caught up in it? Why do I give it so much emphasis and reality and struggle to have things one way or the other? Because at the end of the day, it really does not matter.
I think it comes down to because we're so outwardly focused.
We've given it reality.
We can, I'm experiencing this because I can touch it, and I can hear you guys.
Okay, should we go into this idea of questioning? What is our current construct of what is real?
Yeah. I think we
question
should
that.
because
Should we do that?
Yeah.
Okay. So right now, what is it that we call as real? So if I asked you, what determines reality, what would you say? We'll start with Akash and then we'll alternate between you two. So Akash, what do you think is real? Or what would you call as real?
What I see, touch, hear, smell.
Okay, so what we
five
perceive
senses.
through our senses, right?
Perceive through the senses, what I...
Okay, let's stick to that. What I perceive through my five senses, so not just see, but what I can smell, hear, taste, touch, all of it. That's real. Would you agree with that, Harshal?
Yeah, I suppose I might add what you might know about something as a result of those things.
Okay.
Yeah. So, for example, if you see the table and then so in the initial thinking, if you see the table and then you leave the room, even though you can't see the table, the thinking is that the table is still there and still real. Yeah.
Okay. Good. So I'll bring in an idea which will really challenge this thought that what I perceive is real. Let's say last night I had a dream, right? And I saw a blue table rather than a brown table. And I touched it and I felt it and I perceived it and I smelled the blue. I don't know what wood it was made of. It smelled really nice though. Just because I saw it and I perceived it with my hands.
Right.
Does that make the dream table real?
It feels real in the dream.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right? So at time of experience, it feels real.
Yeah.
Is it real?
Well, when you wake up, you realize no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Similarly, this waking table is not available in my dream state or my sleep state. And therefore, is it real?
Oh my
is it
gosh.
absolutely real? Just because I saw it, does that make it real?
Just makes me feel so limited in the... we think
In your
that this
thinking,
is the real,
We're so caught up in our waking state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we actually have three states that we constantly shuffle through: the waking state, the dream state, and the deep sleep state. It's as though I've only considered the third of my reality, which is the waking, and all my energy and efforts are towards this. And I've completely ignored my dream and deep sleep states. I've not taken them into consideration while coming to a conclusion as to what is real and what is not. Because the truth is, I see this table, I feel it. I saw the table in the dream state and I felt it. Then why is the dream table unreal and the waking table real? Either they are both real or they are both unreal.
Why are we so attached to this then, the awakened
That's what we are asking.
state? If we know these exist, then we're accepting that those three exist. Why the other two exist? Why are we so?
We don't take it into consideration though. We are not thinking in that manner.
No.
And therefore, the only state that we consider the most, we give it so much reality.
Wow.
You want to... Okay, let's go take this another level deeper, and then we'll go to the next point. This table is recognized by me as a thought, right? So when I see this table, it creates a thought in my mind.
Yep.
And what I am actually seeing is the table thought, not the table.
I'm seeing the table thought, not the table.
Right? Because if that table thought was not created, I would not be able to say this is a table.
So it's like saying that what we're seeing is just an appearance in our mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the transfer of the
So,
knowledge or the understanding
yes,
of
so what
this
is outside-
existing. Yes.
it makes an impression or is captured by the
Right.
mind, and what I am dealing with or what I recognize is the thought in my mind, not the object outside.
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm. Yeah, that's like everything we perceive. Is
Everything we
yeah,
perceive
it's
is
just-
actually a thought.
Yeah.
And what I interact with is a thought.
And everything we respond to is just, it's like, oh, we see a table, we process it in our mind, and then we're like, oh, okay, I better not hit the table, or things like that, or like, I should
Yes.
sit down at the table. And we base everything off this idea of this table that we've seen in our mind, and also like where it is in space, etc.
Yeah.
All of that's done in our mind.
Yeah. So everything is just happening in our minds. Right? The way I look at this table, the way I interpret this table is completely subjective. There's hardly any objectivity in there. Because through the eyes of a bee, this table would look completely different because they see in a completely different spectrum. If I was really tiny, then what I would see is not a solid table, but a porous block which I can go through.
Yeah. I think that's a really nice concept, because I think what we think of as objective is often what, we think if many people agree with what you see, then we think it's more objective, right?
Yes.
And if someone, I suppose what we were talking about reality as well, that you can't negate it, and like basically if what would be reality is if it was the same for everything, everyone, anything, right? Whereas now if even one person doesn't see a table, or if we extend it further, if animals don't see the same thing we see, then is it still real?
Yeah.
Wow.
Right? So that brings us to the next point of when we determine, or at least in our minds when we ask this question, is it real? One is perceptibility. We equate perceptibility to reality. Just because I perceive it, it's real. Which is not true, because I perceive my dreams as well and they're not real. Then the mind goes on to the next part that, no, there's so many people who perceive it. Right? Majority is equal to reality. That's also not true.
Yeah.
Because just as one exception is obviously we can look at it from another being's perspective and they may see it completely differently. The other way we can think about it is, let's say I went to a cricket game, right, in a stadium. The World Cup's going on right now. And it was New Zealand versus England. And finally we had our payback of 2019 World Cup.
Yeah.
Right? And on the last ball, as in New Zealand was winning, and in the celebrations, someone knocked their hand onto my face and I wake up. It was all a dream. It was all a dream. Just because everyone in the stadium saw that game transpire, does that make that dream game real?
I suppose that comes down back to the thought of everyone living the same dream, or like that conscious, or that macroscopic dream that everyone's like participating in everyone else's dream. It's all one dream.
But then also imagine like how many other dreams.
No,
You
there was
are-
only one dream.
No. Yeah, but like that's because that's in your dream, right?
Yes.
And then imagine if he was there and
But okay,
Like,
when,
wait,
when,
wait,
when,
wait,
when
wait.
I wake up
Because you
and
know
I
what?
say, Hashu, how was the game? He's not going to say, oh, it was a great game because he wasn't
yeah,
there.
but we're just saying that what we're saying is that if they're all having the same, they've all experienced the same thing because they're all there at the game, but they're all in the dream, right? Like if us two were there, would we experience like we were there in your dream game?
You wouldn't be experiencing it. Like waking Akash will not say
Oh, the
it
dream
was a
me?
great game just because Dream Akash was
Yeah.
with me in that
Yeah.
game.
Then that's what I was trying to say. Is like
Yeah.
how many other dreams would I be in as well at the same time?
So
And then it's the Spider-Man.
So we come back to this idea that just because there are many people who perceive that same event does not make it real. Reality is not determined by majority or by many perceptions of it, many people perceiving it.
So knowing this, how do we still go about day-to-day life? Because like the rest of the world thinks in this way. This is the table.
Right. So before we answer that question, let me just come back to one idea of that dream state,
Yeah.
come to its resolution, and then we'll go into answering that. So the way Vedanta sees it is, like in a dream, what has really happened is I, the waker, has become the dream world and the dreamer and the dream audience and the dream players and the dream game and all the dream experiences. All of that is projection of one entity, the waker. So it is the waker who identified with one dream personality created and said, I witnessed the dream. Whereas the fact was, Dream Harshal and Dream Akash was also me. And the Dream New Zealand team, all of them were me. And the Dream English team were also me.
Right.
Everything was me alone. But the mind has created this fictional world with all these differences. And within that, it has got caught up with one single personality and is claiming the experiences of that one personality, saying that I dreamed going to the game with Dream Akash and Dream Harshal.
Trying to differentiate again.
Yeah. And this is the view that Vedanta holds, that there's one consciousness in which this entire world is an appearance. And from that standpoint, really there are no differences. Having attached itself or identified with one personality of the waking, it's giving reality to all of this. And things, this is also real. So as long as the dream lasts, we say it is real. As long as waking lasts, everything appears to be real. But when you wake up to the reality, the recognition of all realized masters is the world is just an appearance. I alone am the reality. I being consciousness, not a
Yeah.
personality, not an individuality.
Which exists in all three states.
Which exists in all three states, which is present at all three times and is unnegated. And that is real.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to try and paint the picture. So if we've got a spectrum, right? We've got deep sleep here. We've got dream in the middle and waking here. It's almost like the perceived reality
Of waking.
of waking, right, is trying to come through into the dream.
Yes, because
Right.
dreams are nothing but stored memories of waking
But the actual reality over here
in deep sleep.
is in deep sleep is actually all there.
Yes. So that which is present in deep sleep is also present in dream and waking. We just seem to be missing
Which
it.
is the reality.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reality is that which is present in all three.
All three.
Yeah.
And the only thing that is present in all three is I.
Mm.
And what that I is needs to be understood clearly. It is not this body, it is not this mind,
Yes.
it is not this intellect, it is not this set of subconscious impressions or this personality. It is something even more fundamental to that. What Vedanta says is that I is consciousness, which is infinite. And therefore, each one of us is truly infinite from that standpoint, not as an individual, obviously. As an individual, we are quite limited in our abilities, in our expressions. But as consciousness, we are all infinite.
Boom.
So now, coming back to how do we apply it in
Yeah.
the real world?
People go and think we're crazy.
The good part is it need not be spoken of in the world outside. What
Yes, because, right.
it does not matter. It is my understanding of it which protects me or helps me, not talking it out loud. So externally nothing can need change. But internally, because my understanding of the world has changed, I am better off.
Yeah, right, okay. Because you already know it's not real. Why even bother?
As in, you can still play the game.
Yeah. I mean, as
Yeah.
in, like, if
We
play
just
the
don't
game,
get
but
affected by it.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's all we want, not to get
Well.
affected by the world. We just want to remain happy. And this is how we recognize that I'm really untouched, unaffected. I am infinite at all times. It appears to be otherwise, but it's just an appearance. How does it matter?
So we're independent
Of
of all this.
of everything, yeah.
Wow.
Birth, death, winning, losing, new jobs, losing jobs, redundancies, stock market crashes, does not matter. Sweet dreams or nightmares, they're all dreams.
And then even this is
Yeah, this as well is part of it. And that understanding is what Vedanta says is the saving grace. Once you
Right.
have that understanding, nothing can affect you. Something worth thinking about.
we'll definitely play this on repeat. Because it's just the reminder that, yeah. Again, like I said before, we're so used to just the perceived reality that this we attach ourselves so strongly to all of this, and we've forgotten that we don't realize
truly are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think quantum physics is getting close to what Vedanta has discovered literally thousands of years ago, and has been claiming as its fundamental teaching for a long, long time. Obviously, our inability to understand it fully in the language that it was given makes us feel that, rishis might say it, I don't believe it. But then when science comes to the same conclusion, we, like, oh yeah, maybe. But what science will never, I personally feel, this is my opinion, will not come to terms with is the idea that if the world is unreal, so what? Because if we dismiss the reality to the world, nothing remains.
Why do anything?
Yeah. Whereas Vedanta says, no, recognize that the world is changing and unreal, but you, the subject, turn your attention towards that and pay attention to that, whereas science does not accept consciousness as separate from the world. In fact, science does not accept consciousness.
There's always got to be something external.
It's looking for something external.
Yeah.
Science is the study of objects.
The external
Spirituality
world.
is the study of the subject.
Mm.
And this is where the two will have a real hard time reconciling with each other.
Mm.
They're not opposed to each other. They're just facing in different directions. That's all. For a person who understands this, will say science has its place. It is useful when dealing with the world outside. But to know oneself and to know the reality of things, one has to turn to spirituality. And it has its own benefits to offer. They are not opposed to each other. They are not in contradiction with each other. They just are studies in different directions. That's all.
Anything more to add, Harshil?
This might be perhaps another topic, but I suppose the question then would be, even in Vedanta, if the universe isn't real and what is real is the consciousness, the entities that so like we're all not the individual, but we're all consciousness as well. Then what is the purpose of interacting in the world at all, and why carry out anything, and not just go and be a hermit and do anything like that? Which is also, as I understand it, at that point anything goes if you're turning your attention inwards. But I suppose for other people, they might have a different way of. They might still have desires to carry out in the world, and how they can get around. I suppose thinking about that.
Should we make the topic of our next podcast, next episode?
Sounds good. All right. Thank you guys so much. We'll jump into the next topic on the next episode.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Thinking is Free, proudly brought to you by Chinmaya Mission New Zealand. For more information on events, courses, Seva projects and study groups, please visit chinmaya.org.nz. Hari Om.